Welcome to the ultimate psychological thriller recap, where reality is completely optional and everyone needs therapy. Watch a top-tier detective stumble through a mind-bending plot twist so gloriously unhinged, it practically demands an ending-explained video. Settle in, grab your tinfoil hats, and prepare for a masterclass in catastrophic life choices. U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels violently donates his lunch to a fairy toilet while heading to a super creepy asylum. So much for a heroic entrance. Teddy meets his new partner Chuck and immediately trauma dumps about his late wife via a tragic flashback. Excellent icebreaker, buddy. Teddy defensively clarifies that smoke took out his wife, not fire. They arrive at a literal island for the criminally insane. Sounds like a 5-star resort. The ferry docks at an ominously rocky bluff just as a storm rolls in. The welcoming committee consists of very heavily armed guards. They take a joyride past spooky red brick buildings and a cemetery. The guards are sweating bullets, proving this place is essentially a stress factory. They pass a highly electrified fence. The warden warmly welcomes them by demanding absolute, unquestioning obedience to protocol. Ward C is an old Civil War fort reserved for the absolute worst VIPs. Naturally, the guards force our heroic marshals to surrender their totally necessary firearms. Teddy hands over his gun with zero enthusiasm. A gardening patient gives him a wildly unhinged smile and a wave, cementing the horror movie vibes. We learn this facility exclusively hosts the most damaged human beings alive. Another charming lady shushes them while showing off her spectacular dental decay. They finally meet the head honcho, Dr. Cawley, who casually flexes that major intelligence agencies beg for his psychiatric wisdom. We love a humble king. The doctor brags about treating patients with calm instead of medieval brain screws. Teddy boldly suggests the violent offenders don't deserve the spa treatment. Plot drop. An inmate named Rachel drowned her 3 kids and arranged them at the dinner table. She somehow evaporated from a locked room. Absolute Houdini energy. Rachel genuinely believes the asylum is her private home, and the staff are her milkmen. Cawley admits she vanished like a ghost through solid walls. Investigating her bare cell, Teddy plays Sherlock and finds a wildly cryptic note hidden under the floorboards. It reads, "The Law of 4. Who is 67?" The doctor dismisses the note as random scribbles, but Teddy insists the escaped patient is a brilliant puzzle master. Classic overcomplication. Teddy aggressively demands the staff's personnel files. The doctor hits him with a polite but firm denial. The search party scours the brutal coastline. They scope out poison ivy-covered cliffs. Teddy confidently declares that a barefoot woman couldn't survive this aggressive salad. They clock a creepy lighthouse nearby. Teddy interrogates an orderly who basically confesses to taking a supremely poorly timed bathroom break. Top-tier security on this island, truly. Turns out Rachel's primary doctor conveniently dipped out on vacation right after her impossible escape. Not suspicious at all. A massive hurricane wipes out the phone lines, officially trapping our heroes on Crazy Island. Dr. Cawley invites them over for cigars in his mansion. Inside the ridiculously swanky Civil War mansion, Teddy hallucinates about a frozen concentration camp. Just a normal Tuesday night for his brain. They meet Dr. Naring, a German psychiatrist, who immediately diagnoses Teddy as a, quote, man of violence. Teddy takes this with zero grace. Naring roasts the marshals for their violent defense mechanisms. Teddy zones out into a gritty flashback of an SS officer bleeding on the floor. In the flashback, Teddy coldly watches the dying SS guard fail to reach his gun, letting him suffer. Empathy levels are at rock bottom. Back to reality, Teddy accuses the German doctor of being sketchy. The hospital officially refuses to hand over those juicy personnel files. Teddy throws an absolute tantrum, threatens to call J. Edgar Hoover, and rage quits the investigation. They stomp off into the torrential rain. Chuck questions why they're bailing. Teddy admits he's just bluffing to scare the management into spilling the beans. 4D chess moves. Teddy sleeps and hallucinates his dead wife Dolores offering him drinks. She casually mentions Rachel is still on the island. Dream Dolores literally turns into ash and crumbles in his arms. Teddy wakes up to a leaking roof and a full-blown chaotic hurricane. Teddy demands patient interviews. Cawley rants about the good old days of ice pick lobotomies, versus the new era of giving out pills like candy. Cauley refers to Rachel in the past tense. Teddy, the ultimate grammar police, instantly catches the slip-up. They interview Peter Breen, a charmer who bit a nurse's face off. Peter cheerfully suggests they should just gas everyone. Teddy purposely triggers Peter by aggressively scratching his pencil. Peter absolutely loses his mind and has to be dragged away by orderlies. Next is Mrs. Kearns, a polite lady who axed her cheating husband. Honestly, she seems like the most level-headed person in the whole zip code. When Chuck looks away, the axe lady aggressively scribbles a secret message in Teddy's notepad. Smooth and totally not suspicious. Teddy asks her if she knows a guy named Andrew Laetis. She instantly panics, cries, and storms out of the room. Teddy finally confesses to Chuck. Andrew Laetis is the terribly scarred arsonist who burned down his apartment and killed his wife. Laetis was transferred to this island and vanished without a trace. Teddy is convinced they're hiding him in the super scary Ward C. The Axe Lady's secret note literally just said, "Run." The storm gets so violent that a tree almost flattens them, forcing them into a creepy mausoleum. Teddy drops a bombshell. He's not here for revenge on Laetis. He flashes back to the grim horrors of liberating Dachau. More Dachau trauma. Teddy sees mountains of frozen victims, including a tragic woman and little girl. The emotional damage is permanent. We learn Teddy's squad lined up the surrendered SS guards and executed them all. Teddy admits he's totally done with killing. Teddy reveals his grand conspiracy theory. A former patient told him the government is using this asylum for illegal mind control experiments. Teddy's master plan is to find proof and blow the whistle on the whole operation. Chuck starts asking uncomfortable logistical questions. Chuck drops some logic. What if the government faked this entire escape just to lure Teddy into a trap? Paranoia levels are maxed out. The guards locate them hiding in the mausoleum. The marshals realize they are officially, irrevocably stuck on this island. Back inside, doctors debate whether they should tie up the patients so they don't drown. The hurricane is completely frying the power grid. Teddy interrupts to flex his math skills, pointing out that 24 plus 42 equals exactly 66 patients. Teddy aggressively asks who patient 67 is. But plot twist, the doctors announce they magically found the escaped Rachel. They interview the found Rachel. She casually pretends she's just a normal housewife making breakfast, completely detached from reality. Rachel intensely hits on Teddy, deeply confusing him with her dead husband. Teddy is visibly distressed, but awkwardly plays along. She suddenly snaps, screaming that her husband is dead and violently shoving Teddy. The orderlies have to break up this chaotic interaction. The encounter gifts Teddy a blinding, debilitating migraine. Chuck practically force-feeds him some highly suspicious hospital pills. High on mysterious meds, Teddy gets hauled into a bed while glaring at the extremely sinister warden. He promptly passes out. Teddy hallucinates the warden strolling through the concentration camp in a business suit. The camp is raining off his paperwork, because why not? In the nightmare, the frozen dead girl begs Teddy to save her. The guilt trip is absolutely monumental. Teddy dreams of the pyromaniac Laetis casually lighting a match. Dream Chuck warns him that they are running out of time. Dream Rachel shows up covered in blood with her 3 deceased children. She gives Teddy an uncomfortably tender cheek stroke. Teddy cries as Rachel drops the dead girl into a lake. He finally snaps out of this horrendous fever dream. Teddy pulls out the Law of 4 Inches note. Ghost Dolores shows up again to remind him that Laetis is still around. Teddy wakes up for real. The storm has completely fried the security systems, meaning all the dangerously insane patients are free-roaming. Teddy and Chuck use the chaos to sneak into Ward C. A guard cheerfully warns them that the inmates will literally end their lives. They wander through a creepy, pitch-black tunnel. Suddenly, an escaped bald patient jumps out to play a lethal game of tag. The muscular, bald guy drags Teddy into a dark stairwell and tries to choke him out. Peak asylum hospitality. The patient goes on a wild rant about hydrogen bombs. Teddy responds by pummeling him until Chuck drags him off. They hand the battered inmate over to the guards. Teddy lights a tiny match to explore the incredibly spooky dungeon. Teddy finds a cell where an inmate has painted the wall with blood. A voice from the darkness asks him for a light. It's George Noyce. But George's face looks like it went through a meat grinder, and he claims Teddy is the one who did it. George drops lore. This whole investigation is a game. Teddy is a rat in a maze, and his partner Chuck is completely fake. George screams that Teddy needs to let his dead wife go, or they'll cut his brain open at the lighthouse. George reveals Laetus isn't in this ward anymore. Teddy deduces there's only one super sketchy place left to check. Chuck claims he magically found an intake form proving patient 67 exists. Teddy decides it's time to storm the lighthouse. Chuck begs him not to climb the suicidal cliffs. Teddy goes full paranoid lone wolf and starts interrogating Chuck. Chuck fails a basic geography test about his hometown. Teddy officially ditches him and heads into the treacherous forest alone. Teddy spots a body on the rocks below. He dangerously climbs down, only to chase the intake form blowing in the wind. The body was just moss. Instead, he discovers a massive hole in the cliff that is absolutely overflowing with giant rats. Inside the rat cave, Teddy finds a woman hiding by a fire with a knife. Plot twist. She claims to be the real Rachel Solando. Real Rachel drops a bomb. She was a doctor here, not a patient. She explains that once they label you crazy, denying it just proves them right. She reveals the hospital is conducting illegal mind control experiments. They're using ice pick lobotomies to create untraceable ghost soldiers. Rachel warns that 50 years from now, people will look back at this island as the birthplace of absolute psychological terror. She explains they will use his past trauma to justify locking him up. She asks the golden question, have you been eating their food? Teddy realizes he's been willingly smoking their neuroleptic cigarettes. He starts hallucinating massive amounts of blood. Rachel wakes him up and unceremoniously kicks him out of her cave. She refuses to leave because she's committed to hiding forever. Teddy asks if she's seen his partner. Rachel coldly hits him with the truth. Marshall, you have no friends. Brutal. Teddy stumbles out of the woods and gets picked up by the creepy warden. The warden immediately starts monologuing about how God loves violence. The warden tells Teddy they are both creatures of pure violence. He graphically claims he'd bite Teddy's eye out in a survival scenario. Teddy basically tells him to bring it on. He ditches the creepy Jeep ride and sneaks back into the main facility. Dr. Cawley gaslights Teddy, claiming the guy who beat up George Noyce was just a random patient. Also, he says Teddy came to the island alone. The doctor insists Chuck doesn't exist. The axe lady nervously laughs at Teddy. Teddy realizes his grip on reality is entirely gone. Teddy ambushes the smug German doctor with a stolen syringe. The doctor asks if Teddy plans to end him. Teddy successfully drugs the doctor, letting him collapse. He steals a car to use as an explosive distraction. Ghost Dolores begs him not to go to the lighthouse. Teddy ignores her, stuffing her ugly tie into the gas tank and lighting a match. The car detonates in a massive fireball, spectacularly engulfing his ghost family. Teddy uses the fiery distraction to sprint for the coast. Teddy swims through the freezing ocean. He sneaks up on a guard and goes full action hero, stealing his rifle. Armed and furious, Teddy storms the lighthouse spiral staircase. He expects a mad scientist lab, but finds absolutely nothing. He kicks open the top door, ready to dispense justice. Instead, his dead wife is just chilling there in the room. Dr. Cawley is casually waiting inside, revealing that Teddy's stolen rifle isn't even loaded. The ultimate anticlimax. The doctor explains Teddy's hallucinations are from massive drug withdrawal. Not because they poisoned him, but because he stopped taking his meds. The ultimate truth bomb. Teddy has been a patient here for 2 whole years. He hands Teddy the intake form to prove it. The form describes a highly delusional former marshal. The doctor proves with a whiteboard that Edward Daniels is a perfect anagram for Andrew Lettuce. Teddy is patient 67. He invented this massive conspiracy fantasy to avoid facing the horrific reality of his own crimes. The doctor explains Teddy is actually their most violent patient. Teddy is the one who brutally beat up George Noyce for calling him Laetus. If Teddy doesn't accept reality today, they will permanently lobotomize him. Suddenly, Chuck walks in wearing a crisp suit. Chuck is actually Dr. Sheehan, Teddy's psychiatrist for the past 2 years. The betrayal is absolute and devastating. The entire investigation was a radical role-play therapy designed to cure him. Teddy completely snaps and grabs his own handgun. Teddy shoots the doctor, but the gun shatters in his hands. It's a plastic toy. His entire constructed reality shatters with it. The doctor forces him to look at photos of the dead children. Teddy breaks down crying as the repressed memories finally flood back. Flashback. Andrew, Teddy, comes home from work, pours a massive drink, and finds his severely unwell wife, Dolores, chilling outside. He asks where the kids are, and she dreamily says they are at school on a Saturday. Then, he spots his daughter floating in the lake. He dives into the water, utterly frantic. He discovers all 3 of his children have been drowned. Absolute gut-wrenching tragedy. He lines their bodies up on the grass. His manic wife cheerfully suggests they dry them off and use them as living dolls. Dolores begs him to set her free. Broken by unbearable grief, Andrew shoots his wife, completing the tragedy. Back in reality, Andrew admits he invented the detective persona because he couldn't live with the guilt of ignoring his wife's blatant insanity. The doctors pray this breakthrough sticks this time. Andrew tearfully confesses his real name and accepts his grim reality. Sometime later, Andrew sits peacefully on the facility steps. Dr. Sheehan sits down and offers him a cigarette. Andrew calls him Chuck and whispers that they need to escape the island. He has fully regressed again. The warden signals the lobotomy crew, but right before he goes, Andrew asks, which would be worse, to live as a monster or to die as a good man? He voluntarily walks off with the orderlies. And there you have it, folks, a masterclass in how not to handle a midlife crisis. The ending makes it crystal clear. Andrew wasn't actually crazy anymore at the very end. He just chose the ice pick over living with his soul-crushing guilt. Big brain moves, honestly. If you enjoyed watching a man's grip on reality disintegrate faster than a wet paper towel, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more psychological breakdowns, and comment below what movie we should ruthlessly recap next.